Joe Hoye, welcome to the show.
Lisa, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm really excited to talk about all things weight loss, detox diet, and so on today. And so to get us started, what's the main thing you're excited for our listeners to learn from this conversation today?
Um, so you just said detox diet, and I'm really excited to show your listeners what that is, right? Because when we hear those two words commonly, it's like, oh my God, this is just another guy pitching some snake oil that hasn't worked for me for the last decade or so. And so why is this any different? But when we kind of like look under the hood of it, we're going to realize that a diet detox is actually quite the opposite of anything that anyone's ever done. And so I'm really excited to share my beliefs around that and how it can hopefully help some of your listeners.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited for us to uncover that as well because, yeah, like you said, often we think of it as in like some juices or, a 6 day fast or whatever it might be. So it'll be good to get your real take on it and also how that helps you transform your clients' lives and give them a sustainable approach, really. But yeah, how did you get into coaching and specifically what you're doing today?
Yeah. So, I mean, if we're going to go all the way back, it's probably back when I was like 13 years old. Growing up, I spent most of my time with my mom. My parents were separated. And so at her house, it was just her and I. I eventually had stepbrothers. And so sometimes they'd be in the house, sometimes they'd be at their other parents' house. But really, it was just her and I. She was my strongest, most consistent role model. And with that being true, I spent a lot of time with her and her friends. That'll kind of come into the story later on. But like, we were close. We were super close my entire childhood. And at 13 is when I kind of hit puberty, shot up super tall, but my body didn't fill out. So I was like tall, lanky, skinny, uncoordinated, just like those goofy teenagers that we see now. That was me. But I mean, people my age kind of noticed that too, and they're like, "Wow, this kid's an easy target. We're going to start picking on him. We're going to start bullying him a bit." And so that was my high school career. And she noticed quickly, like, "Wow, my happy son is not really that happy anymore." So as a mom, I got to do something about this. And her olive branch to that was one day she came home from work and I did my homework. She cooked dinner. We did the dishes together, and she's like, "Hey, I'm going to the gym tonight, just like I do every night, but this time, would you like to come?" And to me, it was a very clear path, right? It was like, well, the guys at the gym have muscles, they have their head up, they make eye contact, and they're confident, and I don't have any of that. And by the way, people probably won't pick on me if I have some muscles. So I was like, yeah, mom, I'd love to go. Day one, I fell in love with the gym and literally haven't looked back since. So from 13 to 18, I went religiously. However, I never really gained any muscle or weight, right? Because my nutrition sucked. I had no idea what to do. And so I didn't change much physically, but what it did do was give me a really good outlet mentally to be happier and take myself away from all the negativity that was in my life. So number one, like I realized that, yeah, the gym's great for changing your body, but holy shit, is it amazing for actually changing your life and your mind and your mental health. So I wanted people to know that and see that. I graduated high school literally just as skinny as I started it, right? So maybe I gained like 5 to 10 pounds. I was 145 pounds at 5'11". So if you look at a BMI chart, I'm considered underweight. I go into college, I start pursuing a career in the medical field, more specifically surgery. And because of that, I have to take courses on anatomy, physiology, kinesiology, all the ologies, and really understand what the body needs to create change. And so I became my first guinea pig. I keep lifting, but I adapt it and I start doing the right things. I start giving my body the right foods. But at the same time, I'm 18, and I'm sure you remember when you were 18, like we're kind of stupid, right? Like I start partying and drinking and eating Dominoes and then going to bed super late and like treating my body poorly. So yes, I'm gaining weight, I'm gaining some muscle, but I'm gaining weight so fast that I know it can't all be muscle. And before I know it, like within the span of a year to a year and a half, I went from 145 pounds and underweight to 225 and on the cusp of obese according to a BMI chart. And so then I had a new problem, right? Still not confident, right? I just, instead of being super skinny, I'm just fat. And then I was like, you know what? Screw this. Like, I don't like this. I'm going to cut all the party. I'm going to switch my friend group. I'm going to do all this. I'm going to dial it in. And I did. And in that summer, I kind of ended up where I am today, about 190, 195 pounds, lean, muscular, confident, happy. And yes, again, like my body changed. But this is so much more than my body. Like my life changed, my mind changed, my outlook and perspectives changed. And people saw that because I grew up in a small town. So I graduate college, I come home, everybody's like, holy shit, Joe, like you were skinny. You're kind of weird if I'm being honest. You were kind of fat and you were still kind of weird if I'm still being honest. And now I don't even know you. Like, yes, you look different, but you're funny. You're interesting. I like hanging out with you. Hey, like while nobody's listening, like, can you help me kind of accomplish the same thing? And I had enough people ask me to where I was like, wow, this would be cool. Like imagine helping these people avoid the things that I went through by teaching them health and fitness. And so I rolled with it. And I created this online business where I was doing these 8-week fat loss challenges. And transparently, I thought I wanted to help people like me, young men, be confident with their shirt off and either lose fat or gain muscle. And that's not what happened. So I start advertising these challenges online, um, and I get a ton of signups, but I never look at the names. And as soon as I open up Zoom, just like you and I are on right now, all the faces looking back at me on my first coaching call looked a whole lot more like my mom. And there was like no guys in there. And I was like, oh, shoot. Like, what did I do to get this population or this demographic? And this clicked to me years ago, but I can share it with you now. I think what happened is I grew up with my mom, right? I grew up with a strong female role model. So I learned to communicate in a way that resonates with her and her friends. And so while I was just organically typing out my story and trying to communicate how I can help people, well, the ladies that were reading it were like, holy shit, like I like what this guy has to say. I trust him. I'm going to go try this. And at the end of that first call, well, I had a ton of fun and so did everybody else. And at the end of that first 8-week challenge, yeah, we had fun, but we also got results. And it was rewarding because these women, I mean, yeah, I struggled with my mental health, my body composition and body image for, I don't know, 8 years. These ladies have struggled with it for 30. And I was happy when I fixed it after 8 years. Like, imagine how they feel. And it was just so fulfilling for me to see this person that was under the hood, like I could tell was a great human being, but to finally see that in herself and to shine, I was like, oh shit, I don't care if this is not what I wanted to do. Like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I like. So I've ran with that. At the time, I was actually losing money on those challenges. I would charge like $50 and I'd get a handful of signups and then I would give away $1,000 cash prize. And so the cash prize was more money than I was making. And I was like, oh, I really like this and it's rewarding, but I'm losing money, so I have to keep my day job in surgery. And at that point, so in surgery, my role, I was a surgical technologist, which is basically like come in the operating room before anybody else, set it up sterilely, and then during the procedure, pass the doctor whatever instruments they need. We had a really small hospital, so we had no PAs, we had no residents. A lot of the times, I was the one assisting with surgery too. And to kind of push things further, again, getting pushed in this direction, like we had myself and 7 other girls on my surgical team that had the same role as me. My higher ups had a big meeting one day and we were assigning different rooms for people for like long-term focus. And they're like, hey, Joe, I understand you're the only male here, but I think it's a really good idea if you specifically go spend all your time in the OB and GYN based rooms. And I was like, okay, sure. Like, what am I going to say? No. And so I did, like, for the next 2 to 3 years, a lot of what I did was around the female body and learning about it from these doctors that spent their entire career learning about it in depth. And so I'm stealing that knowledge from them in my day job and applying it to my ladies inside my night job. And slowly but surely, I created results big enough to where word got out and my night job trumped my day job. I was able to quit surgery. And then 8 years later, here I am.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. And two things that really stood out to me. So first of all, you said you noticed the feeling of enjoying working with these ladies, seeing the results, creating the results, changing their lives. And I think it's so important nowadays that we can feel that the person we're working with is also having fun. Like, fun is so underrated when it comes to pursuing things or like making life decisions, in my opinion. So leaning more into like what truly brings someone joy, in my opinion, is like a wonderful indicator for what they should be doing truly or what they should be doing more of. And the other thing that comes with that, or that also speaks for you, obviously, is how you're building trust with people. Like you're making them feel understood, and just by sharing, your story or so with us here, also it makes you very trustworthy because you're also sharing vulnerable aspects. And I think that's so important for establishing like a client coach relationship. Because sometimes some people still have that old idea of like, I need to be a coach, above, I'm not telling anything about my own struggles or where I've come from, I'm just telling you what to do. And not only does that not work for building trust, but also it keeps the clients from sharing really important information with you, like let's just say constipation or like having intimacy issues or something like that. Like we as coaches need to hear about that because that's going to affect how you eat, why your weight is up or not budging. And so I really, really like your approach. And so from this 8 week challenge sort of model to now doing what you're doing with the detox diet and your $1 challenge, tell us how that's kind of like evolved and also why you believe that that sort of approach could, benefit 90% of women essentially.
Absolutely. Yeah. And before I dive into that, I just want to agree with you, right? Trust is a two-way street. If I show up or you show up and we act like we're perfect and we've always had it all figured out, people see through that, right? They're gonna be like, you know what? Like, there's something fishy about this guy or this girl, and I'm not dealing with it. And ask me how I know, right? Because I was that way. Because I was so, and it wasn't for a bad reason. Like I was just so embarrassed about where I'd come from that I didn't want to share it. But I had a coach because coaches need coaches too. I had a coach tell me like, Joe, you have to lead by example. And in order to do that, you have to uncover your past and put light in your dark areas. And so I did that. And man, and it was such a change for number one, like being able to help more people, but also helping my current people more because now, just like you said, they trust me. They're like, Joe, man, I'm sorry you went through that. And I know that you and I are nothing alike, but at the same time, like I do kind of relate to you because XYZ happened to me. And well, now we're getting a deeper relationship. And because of that, we're getting more results. Like you hit the nail on the head. Um, but to answer your question, what I'm doing today is basically trying to fight what I was doing in the beginning, right? If I ran into the version of me that started Hoy Fit or Diet Detox, we wouldn't get along. And it's because I've always had good intentions, right? I don't want that to get misconstrued, but good intentions don't always solve problems, right? Because in the beginning, to be honest with you, I wasn't really a good coach, right? I was putting people on starvation diets that were unsustainable. I was asking them to avoid carbs on certain days of the week. I was just telling them to do stupid things that nobody can do for the rest of their life. And I mean, you heard it before. Like I was getting insane results inside those 8 week challenges. But that was it. Like I would work with these ladies for 8 weeks. And then I assumed that because they did it for 8 weeks, they would do it for the rest of their life until I did it long enough. And these ladies would come back and be like, all right, Joe, when's your next challenge? I'm ready for more. And I'd be like, well, hold up. What do you mean? Like you were at your goal. Why are you here? And they're like, well, I gained it back. And it was so normal to them because that's what the diet world does. But I was like, no, 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 that's not acceptable. And at first, like if two people said it to me, I was like, all right, that's their problem. But when 200 people say it to me, it's okay, well, I'm going to point all 10 fingers back at me, and that's my problem. So I knew that I had to change something in order to change their results. And so that's where Diet Detox was born because I was so zoomed in on their immediate results that I didn't see the big picture. And as soon as I zoomed out, I was like, oh my God, I'm just like everyone I hate, and I need to do something about it. And so that's kind of where Diet Detox was born because ultimately what that thought process is detoxifying everybody's mind and body from the damage that past diets have done, right? And so instead of eating less and moving more, well, we're actually kind of doing the opposite. We're eating more food and we're moving a little bit less, but we're moving smarter and we're allowing carbs and we're allowing wine and we're allowing a normal life. And because of that, well, shoot, everything falls into place. Body goals, mindset goals, health goals, relationship goals, career goals, like you name it, it's all connected. And so that's kind of where we are today.
Wow. Again, like so great that you have that self-awareness of knowing and admitting that you did something that I mean, it brought you to where you are today. So in my opinion, there's never
Yep.
any mistakes in life unless we don't learn from them. But you know, you're openly saying like what I did then, I'm sorry, I would have approached it differently, and you wanted to actually help those people long term. So I totally love it. Nonetheless, for me, the question comes up of like, okay, if someone has all these limiting beliefs, all these like fears of carbs, fears of whatever, and I'm saying all of this because I too went through various diets before I did what I would do, started doing what I'm doing now. So when you get these people that have all these limiting beliefs and think they need to go on a 1200 calorie diet or so, where do you start with them?
Oh God, there's a lot of places to start. But the first one is to remind them why they're here. And when I say here, I mean specifically with me. And the answer is always, well, Joe, probably for two reasons. Number one, I saw that the women you work with are kind of like me, except they're where I want to be, not where I am. And so I kind of want to do what they did to get where they are. And well, nothing else I've done has worked, and those things were all similar. So I probably need to do something else to get a different result. Um, but even with that, even with logical thinking, emotion can sometimes swoop in and like blindside people. And so it's like, well, shoot, I'm not going to eat more food because eating more food makes me fat. I was like, well, nah, not really. So if you're here for those two reasons, I just want you to trust me for the first 1 to 3 weeks and just play my game, do what I say, trust the process. And if your face isn't slimmer, if your waist isn't a little bit more sucked in, if your clothes don't fit better, if you're not sleeping better at night, if you're not happier, more focused, more energetic, if your cravings aren't gone and you actually feel hungry now, if that doesn't happen in 3 weeks, well, then maybe we can do things your way. But I've been doing this a while. I've gotten a few results. Are you willing to trust the process and step into the zone of discomfort for a short time? And it's always the hardest part is those first few weeks. But as soon as they notice results and make the connection of like, wow, all those things I just mentioned came true, and I'm eating hundreds more calories a day than I was, well, guess I'm never going to diet again. Like that's when the switch flips and everything gets easier.
And they stop looking at food as diet or in terms of phases from getting to their next vacation and to then gaining it all
Yes.
back and so on. Yeah, I love it. Very, very cool. And nonetheless, from my own personal experience with my clients, I also know that um, yes, we need to shift the way how we think about diets, but also we need to shift the way we think about ourselves in relationship in relation to food. So like basically our identity when it comes to that. And so
Yeah.
how do we go about that? Because I mean the actual like what to eat, how much to eat, and so on. That's one thing. But then yeah, digging into that whole mindset, that's a whole other story.
So when you asked that question before, you're like, where do you start? I really wanted to start with that because like mindset and identity to me is what lights me up. And you guys are probably going to be able to tell here in a second. But at the same time, I understand that not many people see the value of it or appreciate it, right? So I kind of try and hold back. But you hit the nail on the head because look, I mean, if I'm being honest, diets work insanely well to help people lose weight, right? As much as I hate them, it's true. But that's it. I'm talking about diets helping you lose weight. But the sad truth is most people do two diets a year. And for my ladies, I literally just did the math on this yesterday. They've done 2 diets a year for decades, and that usually, with supplements included and everything else, equals about $12,000 spent in their lifetime. Here's what diets don't do, right? They help you lose weight, but they don't give you the tools, the habits, most importantly, the thoughts, actions, and behaviors to help you keep the weight off for the rest of your life, right? A diet simply rents you the identity of somebody successful. But as soon as you're done with the diet, well, you hand back those food habits, you hand back those exercise habits, and you hand back that identity. And if you hand back the identity, well, guess what? You're left with who you were. And who you were got what you had. And so if you're still who you were, you're going to go right back to what you had. So we need to change people at the core to make them a new, upgraded, better, optimal, whatever word you want to use, version of themselves, right? Because if I can change somebody's thoughts, then I can change their behaviors. And if I can change their behaviors, I can change their actions. And if I can change their actions, I can change their outcomes. And if I can change their outcomes, then ultimately I change their life. And so that's where I start inside the mind.
That's awesome. I'm 100% with you on all the points that it's absolutely crucial in order for any pick finances, pick whatever you want to change in your life, relationships and so on. It always needs to start with like how would that the person that I'm wanting to become, how would they actually show up and like literally down to the details of what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. But so yeah, if someone is listening to this and they're like, okay, cool, this is resonating. I do know and acknowledge that I need to change the way I think about certain things, in order to keep the weight off. What are some practical steps that they could take, like on their own, even without coaching?
Such a good question, right? Because knowing what you have to do is amazing. But if you don't know how, you're not going to get very far. So real quick, actually, you know what? Just want to shout you out because a lot of people don't think like that. And and this is coming from somebody that owns a nutrition certification business. And so I deal with a lot of coaches. And just for anybody listening, guys, if you spend a lot of time with Lisa, she's the real deal. The questions she asks, the way she thinks, like if you're looking for somebody to create a transformation with you and for you, you can trust her. So just a shout out to you.
Thank you so much.
But
Appreciate it.
but yeah, you're welcome. So where do we start? Um, One of the biggest practices I like to use, and I do this with my clients, but I teach them how to do it on their own, and you guys can do it on your own too, would be a little practice I called little you versus big you. And so ultimately what that is, we can change the words, we can write current you versus future you, is I believe that inside everybody's life, we have four dimensions. We have our body, so the way it looks, feels, and functions. We have our being, a relationship with ourself and a higher power, whether that's God, the universe, fate, you name it. We have our connections, so our relationships with other people, our kids, spouse, partner, family, friends, coworkers, and then we have our career. And for anybody listening that might be retired, a lot of times I'll change career to contribution. How you want to contribute to your town, community, state, country, or the world. Um, and what I want people to do is I want to write down what they currently have, right? So the little version of you or the current version of you, what do you have or what is true in your life right now in those four dimensions? And so for me, I would say in my body, I'm 195 pounds. I have some shoulder pain that I don't like. I don't love the way that my stomach looks right now, so it makes me slightly insecure and I don't want to take my shirt off. And I would just go down that list. And then after that list is created, I say, okay, great. Now what I want you to do is write down everything future you will have. And by the way, this is the perfect future you version. Like everything you dream to have, I want you to write it down. So write that down. Now sit down, ignore what you just wrote for the future version and look at little you, look at current you. I want you to write down, because of what you have inside all four dimensions currently, I want you to write down how you act, how you think, how you present yourself, and what you do, right? That's easy. We don't have to think about it. We know who we are right now. Great, we have that done. The last piece is I want you to look at what you will have. And because of what you will have, I want you to write down how you will act, right? So how are you going to act because of all these things? How are you going to convey yourself? What are you going to do? How are you going to think? And then once that's all down on paper, guys, I'm going to pull the carpet out from under you and I'm going to tell you that I just misled you. Because guess what? You don't start acting in all the ways of future you because of all the things future you has. It's actually reversed. You start having all the things that future you has because you started acting like future you today. And that's what gets you there. And so, my God, like I just got off a call with my clients last Tuesday. And one of them was like, Joe, I just got to thank you because I taught this to a handful of new clients, and we had one client that had been with me for like 6 months. She's like, Joe, I just have to thank you. Like I did this, and well, I just got a new job, and I'm closer to home, and I get paid more, and I like my boss, and I can work from home, and I have health insurance now, and like everything changed there. And she's like, I never would have done that if I didn't start acting like that version of me that speaks up for myself and sets boundaries and goes to sleep on time and takes care of myself so I have energy and I can work harder. And it's just like, it's so amazing to see.
That strategy is absolutely incredible. I love it. So body, being, co connections, and contribution, those four sectors. So everyone listening, please write that out and make time. I often encourage people to do that like on a somewhat regular basis, you know, because goals change and your higher version of you is you're gonna get more clarity in who that is over time as well. So like doing it quarterly or every half year or something like that, I think is a really good approach. But I love it, and I love what you said about you just need to start showing up as that big you or higher you today and do taking those actions. And for me personally, what has helped me in some things is like start saying the things like I am the kind of person who does X and not saying like, oh, I want to do
Yeah.
this or that person would do that or I'm gonna try doing this. But no, I'm the person who blank. Like I'm the person who doesn't snack on the couch. I'm the person who doesn't drink alcohol during the week or at all or whatever. Like I'm the person who gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning and like even if it feels inauthentic in the beginning because you're not that person yet, but still like telling yourself that over and over again is going to make you grow into that person as opposed to like living in that state that you're that little you that you were talking about. So love that strategy. And like, do you have some practical examples from clients how they took that, especially in regards to the body aspect there, and learned to live into their bigger version that way?
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, I think the coolest piece of this is that I don't give these answers to these ladies, right? Like all the answers are already up here in their head. Like they know the answers. I just help them pull them out, right? As coaches, we're not geniuses that give you the answers of what to do. Like we just take them out of you,
Mhm.
right? Which is so fun. Um, what are some of the things I see that affect body? So, God, for my women over 40, a big one is going to be make like as future me, I am making myself a priority. That one goes so far because for my ladies, like they're a mom, they've been a mom for years, and they've been married for longer than that, and they've had a career for longer than that, and they've cleaned their house growing up and then their current house and they've done everything for everyone else except for them and they've put themselves on the back burner. And while they justify that and it's a really nice selfless thing to do, well, that's not what gets them to future them, right? Taking care of them does. And so they start to make themselves a priority. No, it doesn't mean like the kids have to cook their own meals and everything like that all the time. It just means that they spend some time for themselves. And that is perfectly fine. And then we usually get to the conundrum of like, well, that's really selfish and I can't be selfish. And so that brings us into another mindset conversation of like, well, is that true? Because how are you showing up for your kids right now? Well, I'm pretty short with them and I snap at them a lot and I tell them, no, I don't want to go play with them because of XYZ. But really, if I'm being honest with myself, it's because I'm tired and my body hurts and I'm kind of embarrassed of how my body looks when I run. So I really just don't do anything with them at all. And I'm like, great. So you spend time near your kids, but you don't actually do shit with them. Is
Mhm.
that nice? Like now imagine you do these things for yourself. Selfishly, you do these things, but now you're showing up as a better mom, a better partner, a better friend, a better daughter, a better coworker. Well, is it still selfish or are you being selfless now?
That's awesome.
Right?
Great example, and I know it resonates with a lot of the listeners for sure, absolutely. I think one thing that kind of came to mind as you were talking there is sometimes we think of the norm and we have that like subconscious belief or like really deep rooted belief. So for instance, with aging, I think a lot of people still, even if they might see, oh yeah, there's someone in their 50s and 60s, they have muscle and blah blah blah. But subconscious, I think the belief that as we age, we need to we deteriorate just like really quickly, is just like, oh, this is what's going to happen to me. I'm going to lose my muscle. I'm going to get fatter. I'm going to need help when I'm in my 70s and so on. And I just want to like really encourage everyone listening to like think about that in your as you're doing this higher version journaling exercise, that it doesn't need to be that way, and like you can be the quote unquote outlier or the person that you currently see on your social media that's demonstrating that it's absolutely possible to gain muscle in your 50s. It's absolutely possible to be living without help in your 80s and to like carry your groceries and so on. And I think, yeah, just if we like strive higher, I think we're only doing ourselves a favor because so often we're just so trained and like thinking small and like you think you set yourself this tiny little goal and like, hey, dream big. You just said like there's no upper limit to this. This is your like future version. So, obviously don't plan on becoming an NBA player in your 80s, but like give yourself a higher goal and work towards that.
Absolutely. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that somebody that's 80 can be in the NBA, but I am going to sit here and tell you that people would be really surprised at what they can accomplish. So
Exactly.
surprised.
Yeah. Well, I love that it's like a really well-rounded model in regards to connections as well, in regards to like even contribution and so on. And I don't know if you see that often, but often I do often hear people say, I don't even know what I should want. Like I know that this is not it, but I don't have clarity on what I truly want in life, like or how I can get out of this situation because I'm like with stuck in this relationship that I don't actually like, or yeah, I can't get out. And is there any like strategies that you use with your clients to give them a little bit more clarity?
100%. Yeah, because you're right. A lot of us are running from something more than we're running to something. And so if that's the case, like if I have a client like that, it's like, all right, great. Well, just write down everything that you hate right now. Like everything that's true in your life that you hate. Once that's down on paper, it's like, awesome. Well, you probably want the opposite of that, right? I'm like, well, yeah, it's like, awesome. Well, just go write the opposite of that down and go chase it. And 99% of the time, we have a very spot on foundation of what they want, and that kind of can get the ball rolling.
That's cool. Yeah, I don't think people approach it in that way. Usually they're just like, I'm not happy where I'm at, but I don't know where to go. So, no, really great strategy. And I want to shift a little bit back to the nutritional aspect, or actually more the body aspect. You have a great Instagram page as well, where you also share some like training insights and you show how strong you are as well and your own training. And so I can imagine that some of the women that start working with you, they maybe haven't quite bought into resistance training or training for strength yet. How do you approach that, especially if you work with people remotely?
Yeah, that's an uphill battle for me for sure. Right? Like I'm working with women 40, 50, 60 years old that kind of grew up around Weight Watchers or that idea. And then they see me pull 495 pounds off the ground. They're like, I don't want to do what this guy's doing because then I'm going to look like him. And it just couldn't be further from the truth, right? For a couple of reasons. Number one, we're talking male versus female biologically. Like hormones are different, skeleton is different, body is just different overall. Can you gain a lot of muscle as a woman? Yeah, but you got to work really freaking hard, right? Like you have to intentionally do it. You can't just go to the gym and flip flop around and wake up the next morning jacked. If it was that easy, like I'd be so happy. But it doesn't work like that. The next thing is to build a lot of muscle, you have to eat in a calorie surplus. 99% of the women that come to me want to get a little bit smaller, right? Which means they need to eat less food than their body needs. And so it doesn't really matter how hard they work out, how heavy they lift. They're not going to get huge because they're not giving their body the extra fuel it needs to pack that muscle on, right? And so those two things are true. And then the last piece is you might not believe it right now, but the way that you get that nice, shapely, curvy, toned, defined body, whatever word you want to use, is through muscle. Okay. again, like our skeletons are different. The way that women put on muscle is a little bit different. It gives you guys an amazing shape.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. And nobody wants to look skinny fat, I don't think, anyway. And especially as we age, if we are getting more wrinkles and stuff, like just having that fallen in face, also not
Yeah.
something to aspire to. So having more definition and like collagen through the protein that we're eating and just generally stronger bones and connective tissue through the strength training. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So yes, more women need to realize lifting is just basically an anti-aging uh, measure or lifestyle thing we can implement and should all implement for sure. And yeah, I guess talking about lifestyle, so we've touched on nutrition, eating more. We've talked a little bit about mindset and how to change our identity that way, and now kind of going into training. What are some other like lifestyle things people can do in order to become happier in their body?
Become happier in their body. Good question. Let's see if I can get to something there because I don't have an answer for you right now. But happier in life, I would just say that you need to find things that you enjoy that also help you, right? Like sitting on the couch for 3 hours at night, drinking a Pepsi and scrolling Instagram. I would actually question that you even enjoy. By the way, we can get into that another time, but like it's not helping you. But I'll bet you catching up with your girlfriend while it's nice and sunny and you guys are going for a walk, but you don't really even realize it because you're just gossiping or like talking about the old days and your sons or your daughters or you're bitching about your husband, which I'm sure you do, right? Um, so I'll bet that's fun. And at the same time, you're sneaking in some steps. Like if we can find things like that to bake into our life, not 24/7 all the time. Like, yes, there's things we have to do that maybe we don't want, but if we can bake it in once a day or once every other day, well, you're on the right track. And I think that so many people, here's a big one. I think that so many people are striving for perfection because, well, they see people like you and me, and we post our highlight reel on Instagram. Like, they don't see the amount of times that I broke my back and couldn't get out of bed because I was deadlifting and hurt myself, or the amount of times I simply failed something. They just see me pull it and they're like, wow, he's always winning. And so they think that if they're not winning once, well, they suck. Guess what? I fail more than I succeed, right? Everyone does. But I just dust myself off and keep going. And people have to understand that perfect doesn't exist, right? Just like taking action, being a little bit better than you were yesterday, is what's going to get you exactly where you want to be. And then I think the last piece would be falling in love with the process. So again, finding ways to do it that you like. But if you like what you do, it never seems like work.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think the whole falling in love with the process and just learning that it's not a linear progress as well is so important, whether that's with weight loss, whether again that's with business or anything else in life. So just buying in for the long run. Yeah, Joe, thank you so much for your time. Honestly, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Would love to hear to round us off with if someone signs up for your $1 diet detox, what can they expect?
Yeah, absolutely. So the diet detox is the first phase of my three-phase method inside my one-on-one coaching. It used to be $100. I made it $1 because my goal when I started this was to help as many people as I possibly could. And I quickly realized that not everybody has the resources to invest into one-on-one coaching or to invest $100 into a program. And if I'm going to be honest with myself and my mission, well, I need to make it accessible to everybody. So it's $1. You're going to learn the entire first phase of my coaching, which is basically taking you away from diet culture and giving your body back the ability to lose weight simply. Um, and it's just fun, right? Like it's fun to eat carbs and not have guilt or shame. It's fun to have wine with your partner, or ice cream with the kids. And on Sunday morning, you jump on the scale and holy shit, it's down. So that's what they're going to get.
I love it. I think we've mentioned fun several times throughout this recording, and I absolutely, yeah, I love it because, again, like going back to what we said in the beginning, joy should be more of the compass in our lives. So thank you truly so much. I'm going to put all your handles in the show notes, and I hope people will go and check out your very, very valuable content. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lisa. This was great.